we had burned through, I don't know, 5 to 7 different kind of demand gen, LinkedIn, ghostwriting agencies and individuals over the course of, 6 to 12 months. And I say burn through, not because they weren't all good or they weren't bringing something to the party, but it wasn't a complete solution that was really showing, building trust, showing expertise, and, building something that was tangible. The best way to work together is to work together. That's the only way, right? You can read things, you can talk to past clients, you can read testimonials, but until you actually work with somebody, you don't really know how it's going to go.
The guy you just heard from runs a boutique MMA advisory firm called ExitWise. So, Brian, great to have you here. Lovely to chat.
Thank you.
Before we ever worked together, what was your honest belief about whether LinkedIn could actually drive real business for ExitWise? And where did you feel that skepticism came from?
Yeah, I think I had always looked at LinkedIn. I mean, I was a pretty early adopter of LinkedIn, but I always had looked at it, maybe misunderstood what it was going to become over time, what it has become to this point. I had used it as a bit of a resume builder, just to kind of track my experiences and show credibility if somebody actually wanted to look me up. And 2, to do research with teams and org structures for kind of B2B enterprise sales in my past organization. And that led to, me not having a really clear view of what or why LinkedIn existed. It was just a bit of a resume builder. And that's a lot of the people in my network. That's what we used it for.
And to go from, that thinking of it as a resume builder to, getting deals from it, did you actually believe it was possible to get an MMA deal from your LinkedIn profile?
I'd say healthy skepticism. Healthy skepticism. Certainly my idea of what LinkedIn is has changed. Just my awareness of what it is has changed. And there's parts of it that I like any social media platform is a little bit gross, but the ability to create real conversations, but at the heart of it for the business that I'm in, to build trust through consistent usage. And it's not just about the content being created, but a consistent process over time that is repeated to show credibility and build trust is something that, I never was going to be able to take on myself. I would never have gotten to that point of showing real credibility and building trust through a platform like LinkedIn without guidance and support.
So, this skepticism, right? Before doing it, you'd burned through a lot of ghostwriters, you'd burned through demand gen agencies prior to us, right? Where did that skepticism come from? Was it you mentioned that your clients are needing a lot of trust. Was it the type of client that you were working with that was driving that sort of skepticism? What was it, do you feel?
I'd say more than anything, it was my not believing that just by posting a little bit of content that people would actually consume that content and start building an opinion of me. Even before they met me for the first time. The number of people that I interact with on a monthly basis, whether it's in my personal life, you said, at a conference, or kind of anything in between, I constantly get that conversation or that point of view of oh yeah, I've been following you on LinkedIn for, 3 months or 6 months, or, hey, maybe I did a project with you 2 years ago, but we haven't talked in 2 years, but you've been following my content and my point of view and how I present myself for a period of time. You've now come full circle to say, I'm ready to go through this process. And I now trust Brian, even though we haven't talked in 2 years, right? That consistent voice is important in building a conversation. I guess, why was I skeptical of it? I didn't really believe that there was an ability to build real trusting relationships over a social media platform in that way.
That makes sense. And when you reached out to us, at that moment, I was talking to you on DM. We were talking a little bit about what we'd done, and I suggested that call. You're a busy guy, and you still are at this time. What was actually going on in the business at the time that you were actually looking to solve? How was that showing up for you? What made you feel like you needed a LinkedIn system at that moment in time?
At the heart of it, we were trying to build a brand, and I'm a big believer, more today than ever, that a founder-led brand
Yeah.
is a huge component of building a brand. Like, maybe I have a different opinion if I was, a manufacturing company, or
Sure.
something in which the founder wasn't nearly, or didn't need to be as visible. But for the business that we're in, I have deep experience in kind of digital marketing and branding, and building out core kind of visible websites, even a little bit of the kind of the funnel management. I had never built my own personal brand as a founder-led business, and I felt very deeply that was an important element of our strategy, and I had no idea how to do it myself.
What did you see specifically in your business that made you feel like you had to work on your founder-led brand? Like, how was it showing up on, like, in your pipeline, on calls? Just like, what had you actually seen that led you to think that?
Well, I think it was a bit of a kind of lack of calls that led to that.
Yeah,
we'd always say early on, we rarely lost a deal when there was some personal connection. It was a personal introduction, or it was a referral from a trusted partner, or it's somebody that we had met in an event and had dinner, or a couple coffees with. Those, when we had the opportunity to have those conversations, or there was already embedded trust in the relationship, we won more than we lost. But we weren't winning a whole lot of net new inbounds. The conversion rate for somebody that just hit our site and then wanted to work with us was really, really low. And I think having that kind of founder-led persona for both Todd and I, we just felt like it was a missing element to what we were trying to create. We didn't have a brand. ExitWise, we're creating something from scratch, right? So ExitWise didn't have any name recognition. Yeah, okay, it was interesting, or people liked it, or maybe they trusted us enough to work with us if they knew us. But if they were coming in cold, they're like, I don't know who Brian is, I don't know who Todd is. Like, I'm looking at this logo, this website. Like, okay, maybe it's interesting, but I don't know if I trust them. I don't have any reference point to know if they're a trustworthy business or not.
So you felt like the founder-led element of that, for a business that relies on high trust in deals and very high ASIC deals like MMA, this is something that you felt couldn't be left off the table. And it just wasn't enough to run a standard play where you just, fire some emails off, or, just do some standard brand marketing in regards to like an email campaign or something like that. You felt that there was a missing element there.
Like, if I was a managing partner at Goldman Sachs, I probably don't need to brand myself particularly much, because they step over 10 times more deals than they take, right? But for an upstart, and this applies to many different industries, is an upstart that doesn't have a lot of brand recognition and wants to reach outside of their personal networks, having a founder-led brand, both not just from a content perspective, from an outreach strategy, a person as the founder with the story out front and center, I think is a really, or I will say, we believe very deeply that was a really important part of our strategy. And hence, that's where we came into the conversation.
Yeah. And this is one thing that we got onto before in another conversation, is like, you've probably seen, before you spoke to me, you've seen various agencies, various consultants pitch this kind of thing before. And, we had this joke about, the guru sitting in Bali telling him that you're telling Una, I can give you the lead blaster 5,000. I'm going to make you a unicorn overnight. What made you actually pull the trigger with us specifically, like, as it stands? Because you'd heard a lot of pitches before we spoke.
I'd say this is both, this is intended to be a credit to you and a little bit of kind of who I am or where I've been successful. I think I am relatively good at pretty quickly at understanding if somebody is full of shit. Or if they actually, not only do they know what they're talking about, but are they the right personality that actually wants to partner? And, for me, I need both. It can't just be somebody that knows it and that's just going to jam me into a system and I'm never going to hear from them again. That they're not going to take feedback. They're not going to, have hard conversations sometimes about what's working or what's not. On the flip side, I can have somebody that really deeply wants to partner with me, but they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Well, that's not particularly helpful either. I need both aspects, and I think I'm above average. I've always been above average at understanding really quickly whether somebody can check both of those boxes. And, it kind of came down to a gut reaction of, like, I believed, based on what I was seeing, your founder brand, right, I believed that you brought credibility, and in our interactions, I believed that you actually cared about working with your clients. Like I call it the give a fuck factor. Sorry for the language, but that's not something that you can coach. Like, so you're either going to care about my business or you're not. And unfortunately, there's a lot of partners that are out there that maybe they're really, really bright or they have an interesting solution, but they don't deeply care about whether you're successful or not. They just want to make sure that you're paying the invoices. And in the interactions that we had, I felt very deeply that you had credibility, that you were going to be a resource that I could lean on, not just to do work, but to add value and solve problems, and that you actually cared about helping us find success. Like, to me, that's what it's all about.
That makes a lot of sense. So it was almost the fact that I'd done the thing that I was selling that made me the person for you, but also the way in which that came across, I guess, in the sales process as well, and the interactions leading up to us working together. No, I think that's good answer to the question. So if we think about, like, from that point there, all relationships start golden. We all start with like rose-tinted spectacles. Walk me back to, those first few months. Like, what did it actually feel like working with like, Atticus? Was the moment, things just like clicked, or was it like a slow build for you starting to feel like it was working? And you can give me a really super straight up answer here.
Yeah, I'm smiling because I distinctly remember feeling like you were dragging me up the mountain with you. And I'm like, oh, it's really, I don't know that I want to do this. Like, this is really painful and this is hard and uncomfortable. Like, I don't know that I want to climb this mountain. And
you did become a content creator. Can you remember the first calls you were trying to talk about content?
Yeah. It was super painful. Like, it was uncomfortable. Painful is probably not the right word. It was uncomfortable. It was not a world that I had successfully lived in before. And so you were dragging out a lot of those stories and expertise in a way that I would never have, committed to doing. So yeah, it was a struggle, but like, I think some of, that use any analogy, like some of the most, important growth moments in our lives are times that we feel really uncomfortable. And sometimes you can take that on yourself. Sometimes you need like a personal trainer to put you in a place that you're really uncomfortable to show you that this is the direction that we need to go.
That makes sense. So there was the element of, you learning to become, a better like content creator, somebody who would think more about how their expertise could actually attract people, and that being built into a strategy. Was there a moment for you when just things clicked and the machine for you, the founder-led system, really just started to work? Or did you feel like it was a slower build in regards to actual like results and what you wanted to get from it? Calls, like the conversations, people appearing, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. I think one of the difficulties with the social media platforms, LinkedIn being kind of our primary, is attribution is tough, right? Because it's never one thing that got a client to say yes. And so my belief that we were headed in the right direction was always going to be lumpy. Right. And I think we had plenty of conversations of things that like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, I just got off this call and this client, felt like they knew me and they were really, really excited and they're ready to go. Yeah. And then weeks of kind of like, I don't know, like, are we doing the right thing? And I would give you credit because we were constantly evolving the strategy in the different types of things that we were doing, not just writing content, but different things that we were doing together to say, we understand that not everything's going to work and not everything's going to have an immediate payback. But if we do the thing every day, every week, I believe that we're driving towards the right solution. And there were enough of those positive signals to say, okay, I agree that we're doing the right things. I show up on a panel at a conference. I get invited to a conference to sit on a panel, which in its own right, they found me on LinkedIn. I show up in the green room 15 minutes before. We're all introducing ourselves. We'd never met before. And the one guy says like, oh yeah, like I feel like I've known you for a decade. I've been following your content on LinkedIn for a year. Yeah, I love what you guys are building. Like those signals, does that mean that he is bringing a client to me tomorrow? No. But it doesn't mean is that a signal to say I'm doing the right thing? I'm starting to get noticed and people are starting to resonate with the content that I'm producing, and that the founder-led brand that we're trying to create is growing. Yeah. That's 100%, the answer, but it's never, I don't know, maybe you've worked with clients that it's just a linear experience, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, we did the thing and we got 2 this week and 4 and then 6, then 8, then 10. And it's just this linear.
No,
thing.
it's not. And it's not even like that for myself, right? You're gonna have you're gonna have some months where like you're gonna get a lot of inbound needs. You're gonna have a lot of conversations. You can have other months where it's not so much. It's always like an ebb and a flow, I'd say. But let's talk about like
it's a positive signals, and I think about it as measuring the level of the ocean, right? Day to day, it's impossible to see differences, or it's up a little bit, or it's down a little bit. Like I don't know, but you look a year later and you can see the difference in the waterline very clearly of what happened this year versus last year. I guess that's my belief in what we built.
That makes sense. Let's get specific though. Let's talk about actual deals on LinkedIn. Walk me through, one specific deal from, initial connection or conversation all the way to close. What actually happened? You can talk about how LinkedIn played a part in that, what that journey was. It's just, and as we spoke before, like the buyer journey is complicated. It's never bound by one channel. It's going to be multiple things at the same time. But try and tell me a story of one specific deal for you that you do remember where you thought, wow, like LinkedIn can be a powerful channel in our demand gen strategy.
Yeah, I'd say there's plenty of examples. One that is very, very recent is somebody that we did a very, very small project. I can't say I remember even how we got connected. It was probably 2 years ago. Did a very small project together, thought it went well, but the answer was, you're not ready to sell yet, but we're here for you. And despite outreach, they've been pretty quiet for, call it 18 months. And they hit me up, call it 4 to 6 weeks ago, over LinkedIn to say, we listened to all your feedback from 2 years ago. We have implemented many of the strategies. We have now gotten ourselves into a place that we think that we're ready. I'd like to start formally working together to bring us to market. And my immediate question was, hey, this is phenomenal. Thank you so much. But on that first phone call was like, hey, I hadn't heard from you in a while. What have you been up to? And he's like, well, I follow your content every day. Like the advice that you gave us 2 years ago, plus all of the content you produced in video, in kind of written word and playbooks and all of these things it's as if you're looking over my shoulder every week and giving me guidance, even though I'm not paying you as a client. And so it was natural for me to come full circle when it was time to go, for me to reconnect with you, to say like, yeah, you're the guy that I want to work with.
And we don't need to get into, what his business is specifically valued at, but just to give somebody an idea of like the level of engagements that you engage in. What's the average contract value of an engagement like this?
In M&A, for call it a business that is going to sell for $20 to $30 million, that is call it a $400,000 to $800,000 success fee for us.
Wow, that'd be a good payday, wouldn't it?
For sure. And it's just one example.
Yeah, I mean, there's been many. Let's talk about like your beliefs in like, because we went on a journey, right? We tried different things. We felt at certain points the content was working. We felt at certain points we just wanted to get more conversations. Talk to me about the role of, with the system that we built with you and the training that you had, of LinkedIn DMs and conversations, starting conversations. Do you feel like that became a part of the strategy and you getting more of those conversations? Or did you just rely on just people coming to you directly as it stands?
Yes, I mean, we did a lot of outreach and DMs. I think, at scale, as we've talked about, at scale for our type of business, automated outreach and systems, they never performed exactly how we had hoped. But that, to me, has less to do with the system and more to do with, it's hard for a business owner to get a DM from somebody that they don't necessarily know and say, I now immediately trust you to start thinking about how to sell my business. That's a very specific, this is not like, hey, do you want to take a look at my $100 SaaS tool? This is, hey, I see that you're living in a $5 million home. Would you like me to list it tomorrow? That's a tough message. And so I think what we found over time is through automation and even, personal outreach from myself and even VAs that we've had on our team, reacting to people that are engaging in our content
The concept of
and
outbound.
do more. Yeah, doing more like commenting on their posts or something that they've said, and slowly dripping in this like building a connection. We're doing more, with your inspiration. We're doing more LinkedIn learning type webinar content on LinkedIn. It's easy to start. If we're starting to build a relationship, to invite them to those types of sessions and have a coordinated outreach process to start building that relationship that eventually can lead to a meeting and starting to win in a way that we know we can win, but it's with a more comprehensive, low pressure conversation. We've all been part of that. Like if you're on LinkedIn, if you're active on LinkedIn, every day you're going to get 10 DMs from some random person you don't know that's trying to sell you something. Like, that is not the way that we want to.
That's true. But like, can I challenge you on something a second?
Yeah.
You specifically said to me, you said, cold outbound doesn't work for our business. The previous vendor who tried cold outbound for us before had not managed to book anything. I had zero output, zero meetings, zero pipeline. That was kind of something that you'd said to me previously.
Yes.
Now, what we did run a campaign of, I believe we did start to run some outbound there, which was a mix of, people who were engaging in your profile. That's what the system that you guys went on to carry forwards. Yep. But we did stop the outbound. But when you saw, I believe there was a deal that came through, which was a decent sized deal. It was potentially going to be about, was it like $300,000 or something like that?
Yeah.
It didn't close in the end. What were your thoughts when you actually saw that like outbound in a world you could use could actually get you some result? Because previous to this, you were like, it doesn't work for MMA. I'm happy to be wrong, Luke, but I just don't think it's going to work.
Well, even before I dive into that one, like literally in the last week, I got somebody that pinged me on DM on LinkedIn that came out of one of our direct outreaches from, I don't know, a year ago. Like I look back at the DMs and he had pretty much ignored me. We never had any interaction, but then I saw him pop into one of our webinars. I saw him like a couple posts, and all of a sudden we're having a conversation a year later. So that's not, I'm not here to say cold outreach doesn't work. For our business, it is trying to find the right outreach to build trust. And, we definitely have found a way to make that work that doesn't equate to like, hey, do you want to sell your business? Like that's not the answer.
And how
it's like building, doing outreach to build relationships based on signals is working. It is 100% working.
And how much did you feel that Atticus' system that we implemented played a role in you getting to what you have now, where you are getting, these 300, 400K deals dropping in from LinkedIn for people you spoke like 2 years ago?
As I said, attribution is difficult. Like it's tough to give you enough credit for what you have contributed, but I'm literally getting deals every week because of those systems that were put in place, without question.
I'm very, very happy to hear that, especially since the, healthy level of skepticism we had before, we worked together. What were the things, that surprised you about how it worked? Like either, things that, performed better than you expected, or things you assumed would work but didn't. And we had a lot of these things, I think. There was plenty of surprises along the way.
Yeah. I think not being a deep user of any social platform, I think the thing that shocked me the most, even if you like discouraged by the metrics sometimes of like, oh, these posts aren't getting anywhere, nobody's seeing them, nobody's liking them, this sucks. It literally, the people walking on my street with their dog, on a Saturday that I haven't really talked to or interacted with for whatever in any serious case, it's like, hey, I saw your post from last week about X, Y, or Z. Like, that was really insightful. Like, wait, what? And that's a silly example. But the point is that I was shocked at the number of people that authentically were consuming my content, even if they weren't my ICP, even if they weren't liking or commenting on posts, the volume of eyeballs that are seeing and hearing is real. And so again, it's very, very difficult to peg a specific number, but my biggest surprise is that you could actually make a dent into the universe, by using these systems and by building content on a regular basis. And it is impossible to predict how that's going to go. Like even like the dog walker right in front of my house, my next door neighbor threw me a lead, I don't know, a month ago for somebody that, was a friend of hers that was thinking about, going down this path. Like we're friends. I don't see them on a daily basis. Like, and I don't know that they are even that particularly aware of what I do. Like, how much do you know deeply what your next door neighbor's business is? But she literally has said stuff over quarters and a year that, like, I enjoy your content. I feel like I know exactly what you're doing and what you're building. Yeah. And so then those conversations aren't coming directly from LinkedIn, but they're personal referrals because somebody that's in my network knows what I do. And as soon as they hear something, they're like, hey, you need to talk to Brian because he's super, super trusted.
Yeah, that's it's almost the ability for content to create these events as serendipity, but it's not really serendipity. It's just that you showed up for 2 years and created content and became the person known for the thing. Let's talk about results, like on regards to the engagement over 2 years, even since using the systems. When you look back at the pipeline, that directly came from this work, directly came from the founder-led demand system that you have in your business over those 2 years. What are we actually talking about in terms of like deal value? Can you walk me through the numbers as best you can recall? You don't have to be 100% correct, but like...
Yeah, I mean, I was doing some of the math in prep of this. I mean, the revenue that I can generally attribute to these conversations are in the millions of dollars over the last couple of years. And that's not, there's no question about that. Like, can I tie one post to a client? No, but I know that these are people that I didn't know, that didn't know us, that popped into a conversation somehow that seemed to know more about XYZ than they otherwise should have. So yeah, I'd say it's in that, call it $2 to $4 million revenue, easy, without any question.
Wow, that's actually more than I thought. I had scoped it around the 700 mark, but that's really good, man. Like, I'm very, very happy to hear that. So like, beyond the pipeline, did anything else change? Like, the way people perceived, exit-wise, conversations at conferences, the quality of, the people showing up in your inbox itself. Like, did anything else change in your mind?
Well, I'd say the thing that changed the most dramatically is if you're creating content on a daily basis, it helps you change and tweak and test your story, right? Your messaging, your ICP, your offer. Like, how many conversations have we had in the last 2 years about our offer? Like, that has nothing to do with the programs you're putting us through or the content we're writing. It's like it's constantly evolving based on what we're hearing and what we're seeing, that talk track. And so, like, one of the softer benefits of working with somebody like you is been an evolution of how we present ourselves and the offer that we're putting forth in front of our clients, that related to LinkedIn, but is also just how we tell our story on our website. And when we're talking to somebody, just face to face over coffee, like when you're forced to write on a daily, weekly basis, you're forced to do outreach to clients. It's just putting you through cycles and practice. And the more you practice, the more that you get to the point that is ultimately successful.
The real market data feedback that you get from telling your story, understanding how that story can be told, seeing the resonance of that on LinkedIn, and also the way that you show up in DMs with clients, the conversations you have with the market. There's no better way to inform the right sort of positioning, how you're different from other people and what your market ultimately cares about. Like, I definitely think there's a really good feedback loop there. And was there like a single moment where you thought, Brian, like, okay, like, this is real, like, this is actually working? Like, can you remember a moment where you felt that in the process?
There were several moments in the first 6 months in which I was getting either responses to outreach or I was getting cold inbounds to my DMs from clients. And maybe they always didn't become full-time clients. Maybe they weren't the right size or they weren't the perfect ICP. But I remember looking over to our team saying like, holy shit, I just got a random outreach on LinkedIn from somebody that's off content that wants to talk to me about valuing their business and prepping for sale. Like, whoa. I guarantee if I was just managing my resume on LinkedIn, that would never have happened.
Yeah. No, that is a lot of the moment. A lot of people saying for me as well, like when you see, I can create content on the internet, get an intent signal from somebody who's engaged in my content, start a conversation with them. For them, as soon as you open it, going, oh yeah, I've actually been watching your content for like 6 months. Like, what is it actually that you do? Or like just seeing how much more people open up to you, people you've never met, than if you were to go in cold and just look like all the rest of everybody else, like who's just in MMA connecting and going, hey, you ready to sell your business? Like it's a completely different ballgame. You said to me something that really stuck for me, that you felt that I could look around corners for you that you didn't feel like you could see. What did you mean by that? And like, why did that matter to you?
When I work with any partner, I always want them to, of course, care about my business, but I need them to have deep experience and understand what we're trying to accomplish in a deeper way than I'm able to. I can't be like, we fall into this trap as entrepreneurs. We think we have to do everything. We have to be experts at everything. We have to manage every aspect of the business. The reality is that's impossible. Like, there's no way to do that, and there's no way to learn and be an expert in every area of your business. So when I'm going to lean into a partner, I need somebody that is way more experienced than I am to help me create and convert on what we're talking about. And I use the analogy of seeing around corners. Like, I can't see around the corner. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, I don't know what this thing is, but I need somebody that through experience and intellect and passion, maybe they can't perfectly see, but they're going to do a better job than I am.
Yeah.
and that's the way I think about you, right? You're seeing around corners much faster or with a higher confidence than I ever could on my own.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And something that also comes up for me is like, candidly, like some people do LinkedIn and, it just doesn't work for some people. Like there's always that standard bell curve. You've got a third of people that don't get results, third of people that, are going to get pretty good results. And you get third of people who, drive 2 to 4 million in LinkedIn in like 2 years. It's like, and it's an insane result, especially if you'd never activated a channel before. And that's just a standard deviation for, I guess, agencies in general across the board. I mean, it might be slightly norther for some people and slightly souther for others, but what do you think is the actual reason behind why this worked for Atticus? When a lot of people try LinkedIn and, just don't get these kinds of like pretty crazy results. Like, what do you think is the reason it'll work for you?
When it comes to the content being created, there's a lot of different kind of variants of content out there. And I think any of us that spend time on LinkedIn, we've seen it all, right? And there's some content creators that they're not great writers, or they're just not doing a great job of kind of showing their expertise. They're promoting like an internal job offer, or they're like promoting a friend about to do something. They're not showing their expertise. On the other side of that bell curve are people that are, I use the word gross. They're in like self-promotion mode of like, I'm the greatest, I'm the expert, I'm the only one that knows how to do this. Like, look at me, I'm on my yachts. That's tough. I think
that's next year for you at Exit Rise.
That's a tough like that I don't think that's the right answer. I think again, paying a compliment, the reason that I think that this has worked for us is that you found a nice way through expertise and experience and really kind of becoming embedded in our business. You've connected, you've found the sweet spot between those two worlds of like, yes, we have to talk about our experiences. Yes, there are personal components to these stories, and you want to make this a little bit more personal so that you can connect and build trust. But you also have to show expertise, real expertise, not just, I'm an expert, come and talk to me, like telling real detailed stories and case studies around what makes us different. And you found a really nice kind of middle ground to authentically convey kind of those components. That's
the positioning points that you could lean on, that you could talk about, that would make you look different and showcase you as an authority without you feeling like gross, essentially, without you feeling like it was cliche, you were smoking a cigar on a yacht, I don't know, throwing money in the air. I think there's that Jordan Belfort scene in Wolf of Wall Street that maybe we're both thinking about. Cool. So like, man, like, generally speaking, what would ExitWise look like today if, you just not decided to do this 2 years ago, do you feel? Let's say you've never done LinkedIn. Let's say you didn't keep at it. Let's say you never really had the deals from LinkedIn. What would the business look like?
I think there's a bigger than 0% chance that ExitWise would not be around. It's hard to exactly know.
Yeah, of course. We don't have the crystal ball, but
LinkedIn is a significant part of our lead generation strategy here, and it's not insignificant. It is one of the biggest areas of focus for us.
And you know what, man, like if somebody came to you, maybe from another like boutique advisory firm, consultancy, maybe they've got a high average contract value, and maybe they're an agency, and they said to you, you know what, like, Brian, like, I watched your video, you said some really great things, but like, should I do this? Like, what would you actually tell them on that call?
Yeah, I can say this because I've had this conversation many times of like, wow, you're really investing in LinkedIn. Like, is it work for you? Should I do it? My answer is always kind of threefold. Like, one, you have to decide if you're going to do it. And that doesn't mean you're going to try it for 2 weeks and give up. Like, you have to decide if you want to actually do the thing.
Yeah.
Two, if you don't have your own personal or internal expertise to do it right, you better find it, because you could go wander around in the woods for 10 years on LinkedIn and see zero benefit. So go find your expert if you don't have that expert in-house. And three, just like anything else, like, it's going to be freaking hard. Like, it's going to take effort. You can't like, okay, check the box. Yes, I want to do this. Check the box, hire an agency.
Yeah.
Do nothing. Like,
there's almost the co-creation. I feel like the best clients we work with, like yourself, others who, got very similar results, drove significant ROI from the platform. It's a co-creation. You can't expect just a provider I always say this, I was like, the magic lead machine doesn't exist. You don't wake up one day and have an overflowing inbox. You do the right things. You position yourself well. You position yourself in a way, where you look different from other people. You lean on the stories which can bring the right people to you. You put in place the right infrastructure to create that content, to actually get people to reach out. And you have the right processes to start those conversations. None of that is magic. It's just about nailing the fundamentals and doing it over very, very long time periods. I mean, we're literally talking like these big results. We worked together 2 years, but the interesting thing is where did you see it compound? At the first year, we had some decent success, but was it really until like your second year and a half where you really started to see that exponential gain from LinkedIn? Like, what was the lag time?
Yeah, those early months, we weren't really sure what was and what wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it 100% compounds over time. And there's been plenty of times I'm like, I should just give up on this. This is a distraction, and I need to be working on other areas of the business. But then you get another deep conversation that comes off of LinkedIn. And you're like, oh yeah, I can never.
Now I remember why we're doing it. And here's an important one, like, genuinely speaking, is like, who do you feel that this is just categorically not for? Like, who would probably not work with Atticus Agency?
I'd answer it by saying anybody that doesn't care about having some sort of founder-led or kind of persona-led sales or kind of trust-based kind of relationship building. Like, if you don't care about being a face of your brand or kind of your whatever your segment of your business is, then yeah, LinkedIn doesn't make sense for you.
Nobody wants to build trust with people before they get on a call.
I mean, and if you're not willing to put in the work, like I use the if I'm not a runner, but I think the analogy is easy to understand. Like, if you want to run an Ironman triathlon, like, again, do you actually want to do this? That's yes or no. B, can you actually prepare yourself by yourself, or do you need to hire somebody that has done this before? Probably B, hire somebody.
Yeah.
C, you actually have to show up and do the work.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
the
that's
coach,
really
the experts, the team, the partner, they're only going to be as good as you're willing to put in. And
like 100%.
if you want to run, if you have a dream of running an Ironman, and you hire the best, most expensive coach on earth that is run 20, and then you sit at home on Friday night and eat a box of donuts, like it's probably not going to work out for you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it's like another thing is like, how involved would you like to be? And we're not talking about tons and tons of time, but like, so as far as your time commitment, how much time do you feel like you were actually spending, in the actual creative process in running the system? And even now when you're running the system, how much time do you feel like you actually spend in it?
Yeah, I'd answer this in two ways. If I was going to do this myself, I'd be here, whatever that is. Call it, tens of hours a week to do this. 10, 20, maybe even 30 hours a week if I was going to do this myself. By working with you, I'm doing this. I'm doing, a 10th of the work.
Yeah.
I have to participate. I have to show up. I have to give feedback. I have to think. But I'm doing, a 10th of the work. Now, the interesting thing is that I do way more than that on LinkedIn because it's working. Right. And so it's like the building blocks and the frameworks and the work that I don't really need to be doing is mostly taken care of. It enables me to actually do things that are really high value on LinkedIn that maybe would be tougher for our partners to do.
That makes sense.
So I am spending real amounts of time every week on LinkedIn. But the basics and the strategy and the frameworks, that's all taken care of me. It allows me to spend the time, doing the thing that is really, really high value.
That's awesome, man. Tying this off, so like this is, I'm going to run the host outro now. So look, Brian came in as a skeptic. He runs a serious business. They run a boutique MMA consultancy called ExitWise, working with serious clients. You've seen there some of the values of these deals, like literally multi-six-figure deals coming in and generated off LinkedIn. And you know what? Like he needed evidence before he worked with us. And what you just heard is what 2 years of realistically of what that evidence looks like. So look, if you're watching this right now and you've probably been thinking, about maybe getting into LinkedIn, about maybe like building a founder-led demand system in your business, you've been seeing other people doing it, even hearing Brian's story right now, and you've probably wondered if it works for like your kind of business, the kind where a single client relationship can literally be six figures, and it might be recommended to you from, your next door neighbor who's seen your content for 6 months or even 7. And the kind where, the trust of those deals matter and the authority matters more than just, volume and throwing shit at a wall. That is exactly what the founder-led demand system is built for by Atticus. And look, if you want to have the same conversation, that Brian and I had at the beginning, before any commitment, before any pitch, there is a link in the description. We'll look at your profile. We're going to look at your positioning. We'll look at your outbound and tell you honestly about, whether this is the right move for you or not. And I just like to say, Brian, from the bottom of my heart, you were an amazing client. You became a mentor figure to me, a personal acquaintance, even I could even say friend. We went through a lot of stuff over the last 2 years, and I couldn't be more prouder and happier for the way that LinkedIn worked out for your business. And I know that for anybody that watched this, I'm sure it would really inspire a lot of people, because you literally went from being a skeptic to now being, having generated like multiple 7 figures on LinkedIn and becoming, a content creator in your own right. And ExitWise is pretty much now really building out an arm as a media company. It completely went like a 180. So I just wanted to say thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.